The age factor also has become the major issue in a race in a state that you're familiar with, Massachusetts. In the Senate race, the incumbent Ed Markey, 80 years old, he's been in Congress longer than his challenger, Seth Moulton, who you used to work with, and who I've known for 15 years. Markey's been in Congress longer than Seth Moulton's been alive. And yesterday, and the Democratic establishment, as I know it, and as I've known them since the dawn of the Bronze Age, have pretty much lined up with Markey. People like Tommy O'Neill and Jack Corrigan. These were great political operatives, by the way. And they can't understand why the Boston Globe endorsed Moulton, especially given the fact that a new round of polls had Markey ahead by substantial amounts. But it seems as if the primary is September 1st. It seems as if age is coming to the forefront in that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think part of this is that, yeah, you've got a bunch of things going on there, but there's the generational battle for sure. But I also think, look, one of the things that's happened is we have, at some point, and this isn't about being 80, but at some point, been there 50 years in Washington. It's time. It's just time. And I think the Boston Globe, I think people get that. And also, when you look at the problems that we're going to be facing, no 80-year-old is going to be facing them.
Right.
Well, about climate change. I'm talking about, about being able to a generation that can't buy a house, or it has to worry about AI and all these things that are coming faster and faster. And government isn't reacting fast enough to keep up with that change. It just seems, I think there's an urgency for new blood, for new ideas, new vision, and new leadership. And we'll see whether, I think Massachusetts, it could be a test of that, versus the ideological differences, which there aren't that many, frankly, between them. I think it really is, although obviously Markey wants to keep making that case. But again, I think the one thing about Massachusetts that's different is that there's no fear that regardless of who wins, there's going to be a problem with the Republican winning the seat. So so that kind of pressure isn't in this race, which by the way, in these other states that we're seeing this, it's interesting because sometimes the progressive and what the establishment believes is less electable has won, like in Michigan, and in other places, most of the country, frankly, the more moderate, electable, whatever you want to call it, or the candidate that really fits the district. And that we still don't know whether that's how Michigan will play out too. Maybe Michigan did nominate the right person that fits the state. We don't know. We won't know until November. That's why we hold these elections. But I do believe next, the primary in Massachusetts is going to be very fascinating. I still support Seth and occasionally provide advice when I get asked, and so I'm rooting for him. But I agree, by the way, that Jack Corrigan and a lot of the establishment people were, obviously some of the best minds in Massachusetts politics. But I do think it's a struggle for them to understand, how this could be happening. But I look. The one thing I do know is there's still a bunch of Markey supporters who actually will tell you, because I was up there, I was in Boston, as you know, doing a war game on the 2026 election, and keeping the hurdles that Trump is going to throw at us at bay. And while I was up there, the number of people who were for Markey, but who were saying things to me like, he should have done the right thing and not run. I'm still for him because for good reasons, but they really, there is a reticence to
There, but
believe.
there's also a clear ideological
Sure.
difference here,
Yeah.
and its name is Bernie Sanders, who
Yeah.
has endorsed Markey,
Yeah.
and in fact, Markey has an ad with Bernie Sanders and with Elizabeth Warren. It's like the Golden Girls get into politics.